Good afternoon. Afternoon Live. Dennis Fithian with you here following the Michigan State game. A win for the Spartans, 37-33. I'm going to talk all about it here coming up over the next few minutes. The Paul Bunyan Trophy staying up there in East Lansing. The easy part for this one is if you're a Michigan State fan, you're listening, I know how you feel. You feel great. You had a tremendous win at home. Things, you get behind 10-0 early. You get behind 16 points in the second half. But Kenneth Walker III, who was on the short list for the Heisman Trophy, comes up with 5 touchdowns. And Michigan State ends up running away from the Wolverines, and they hang on and win this one by 4 in Spartan Stadium. Michigan in this one, they're going to be kicking themselves all the way back to Ann Arbor. They should. There's a lot of different things to talk about. The loss, with kicking 4 field goals, the referees, the coaching decisions, those are, to me, top of mind as I sit here right now reflecting on the game. Kenneth Walker III, he's a great back. And, giving up 5 touchdowns, that's not what you wanted to do. Having him go on repeated long touchdown runs, he had the 23-yard one there in the fourth quarter, but a 58-yard run, a 27-yard run in the second quarter. I mean, those it felt like that 58-yard run was a backbreaker. Then they get the 2-point conversion to make it 30-all, and there at the end, by the time you get that one, you're having a special day, one of the great days, ever, not just against Michigan. Although I've seen a Plaxico Burress throw up whatever he had in 99. You've seen some great performances by Michigan State against Michigan. Kenneth Walker III is not taking a back seat to anybody, but for Michigan here, the refs were a factor, even on to the last series. Kojo, Cornelius Johnson's coming over the middle, and there's a lot of things that might upset you. That's upsetting. Like that call, you could say, hey, you know what? The game's on the line. The refs are going to let a little bit more go, and I think that's true. If there's an egregious foul. Like if it was a ticky-tack one, I think there'd be something you say, okay. There was a pass interference call that Joel Klatt, earlier in the game, that I think it was DJ Turner I got called on for Michigan. And, I didn't even see his hand. Maybe his hand was or arm was around the wide receiver's waist initially. But when they show the play, he's got both hands, down, and he's reaching out. It was just tic-tac or close. Not even saying that it wasn't a pass interference, but I'm saying it was extremely close and tic-tac. And I got Joel Klatt, the color analyst, like, well, that's a really good call. And I'm thinking, you know what? Is that a really good call? Because it didn't seem like it. And, the Kenneth Walker touchdown that he had, I think it was the first one. When you have 5 of them, they all run together. But the one where the ball was coming out right at the goal line. And then first glance, I thought, you know what? Probably not. And if you're using the standard that there's got to be definitive proof, you're going to go with the call on the field. Even though I did see a camera angle where you could suggest or say that, that ball is coming out. I get that they didn't call that one. I mean, that's 7 off the board. The ball goes out of the back of the end zone. Like that would have been a huge call. No question about it. But when Peyton Thorne gets the ball stripped, and then Hutchinson ended up falling on it in the end zone, and the shin's down there, like when you're talking about definitive proof, like if there was one thing, if you didn't even have the call on the field, you would say in Klatt, I guess to his credit, Joe Klatt, he saw, and then what Mikey Rulebooks, Mike Pereira was saying the same thing, like, yeah, you could see the ball looking like it's coming loose. Certainly not enough there where you say that the ball's not, and then they overturn that one. I mean, that's an egregious botch by this officiating crew. I mean, they kicked that one as bad as you're going to kick a call. Like, really, these guys got to be sitting in, and I know it's a scrutinize and, the refs and Michigan cry, but, for that particular, it's true. And when you have some of those happen to you, well, then, I saw Michigan fans freaking out. Like, I didn't think there was a face mask. I think that was a good idea to pick that one up. But then when you have another 4 calls that, were probably the right ones by the officials, where they were giving Michigan State first downs or picking up flags, they probably made the right calls there. But by this point, you're thinking, you know what? They've got it in for you. It felt like that anyways when you're seeing it, even though they probably made the right calls there. But they didn't on that last one, the Cornelius Johnson. They kicked that one too. And really, like, there's hand fighting and, you're going to have the guys going back and forth. But when you're talking about a fourth down play with a game on the line there, and Cornelius Johnson's coming over the middle, and the guy has his arm draped all over his back, and I think that call is called 98 out of 100 times at any situation in a game. And so Michigan gets one where, there's the 2% where it's not being called. It was almost, it was not poetic justice, but very typical of the day, where the game, the Michigan doesn't get the DPI, the defensive pass interference or hold, whatever you wanted to call there to keep the game going. But, that's the refs. Well, like I said, I think, you credit to see Kenneth Walker put on a special show like he did. Credit goes to him. It was great atmosphere. I was just watching it on TV, but it was, you could tell the crowd there, the intensity. It was as good as it's ever been. And then, there's my thoughts on the officials and now the coaches. I mean, there's a couple things here. On one side, if I'm looking for the positives here, Michigan just didn't go out there and say, hey, we're going to force the ball with Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum. That's going to be our bread and butter. That's what we're going to do. It doesn't matter what the defense is going to, present to us. If they're stacking the line, we're going to throw. And, they did that. And they had success doing that. And they were finding the middle of the field. And, the pass early on that Michigan has when it is Andrell Anthony, the true freshman out of East Lansing, to go 93 yards on that 3rd and 3 after Michigan's, backed all the way up there after they got the interception, but a false start. They're backed up really 99 yards, and a 3rd and 3 goes 93 yards. You're feeling pretty good. And, you get down there and you get the interception, the Dax Hill tip and the Mike Morris, and you're down there and you're like, yeah, sure, getting points. But when you're starting to kick 26-yard field goals, and then when you have 4 field goals, I think in the end, you're going to come back. And that's a part where you feel like you're going to kick yourself too. Now Moody, a 38 at the end of the half that he had to kick 4 times and finally get that one. There you're feeling something like you get that one, and then a longer one, but then another 36-yard, too many field goals for sure there. But the thing that was apparent even in the first quarter was that Michigan State, their game plan was they had looked at Michigan's defense and they looked at Mike McDonald, the 33-year-old defensive coordinator for Michigan, and they said, we are going to run tempo, and Michigan likes to change personnel, even if the offense isn't. And you know what? We can catch them doing that. And you know what? They caught them. And the tempo caught Michigan with Michigan State on their 4th drive of the first quarter there that, ended up, being Walker scoring on that touchdown, the first play that Michigan State had in the second quarter. The tempo was apparent that they had that in their back pocket. They were going to utilize it. And you know what? It just kept happening. It happened in the first quarter. It happened in the second quarter. And it happened in the second half. No adjustment. Like, was there an idea, like when you're there at the half, saying, hey, let's only change the personnel when Michigan State is changing there, so it allows the referees then have to allow you? Was there a conversation that way? Do they have that in their playbook, or that adjustment? Or, the part where they were having success staying up on the line, can you adjust as a defense and say, hey, we're not going to be able to try all these different things and different looks? Because how many times, I'm just thinking back to this game where I've got Michigan State standing up on the line calling a play, and Michigan's got at least 2 or 3 guys running around like chickens with their head cut off. Too many times. Bad game from Mike McDonald as a defensive coordinator. From a personnel standpoint, not being able to get his guys in position, not being able to make that adjustment, and even if it was an adjustment with personnel when they weren't changing, not having your guys, you can't move around and give them different looks pre-snap. If they're in tempo and they see you moving all around, they caught you with your pants down once. How many times are you going to let yourself get caught with your pants down? Too many times. One of the big stories of the game. Kenneth Walker was a big story. The officials were a big story. McDonald and the tempo, and it'll go to Harbaugh as well. I'll get him in a moment. But Mike McDonald, he got depantsed in this game. Too much. Not a good job by the defensive staff there. Credit goes to Michigan State. Go ahead. I'll give them credit. Something happens repeatedly, you get caught. You get caught again. Again and again and again and again. And that gets you, maybe I'm burying the lead. And it was always a danger of playing with fire when you got 2 quarterbacks in there. And however the rhyme and reason is, we're going to rotate them in. At one point, Gus Johnson's like, I remember it was a long time ago that Steve, we talk about rotating quarterbacks all the time. But back in the day, like Steve Spurrier is rotating them series by series. Sometimes, play after play. Well, here's Jim Harbaugh, not to be outdone by, the old ball coach. He thinks let's run a guy in, run a guy out. And we all understand with the transfer portal and a 5-star, a guy can hit that thing and be gone tomorrow. So I understand the plan of getting McCarthy in there. But you know what? When you have a player like, what if Michigan State decided in this game? What if Michigan State said, and this is after Kenneth Walker had, 2, 3 touchdowns. What if they decided, like, you know what? Let's just go with another back here. Let's start feeding somebody else. You know what? They didn't do that. You know why you don't do that? It's one of the simplest things. Like, you don't have to be Newt Rockne or you don't have to be Bill Belichick, anybody to know some really fundamental things about sports. When you have a hot hand, you go to it. And, Michigan, Cade was cooking. Cade McNamara was dealing out there. And besides that, I'll go right back to that point. J.J. McCarthy was brought into the red zone in a situation, and he rolled out, and he botched it. He kicked the ball, just dropped it like it was a piece of soap in the tub. It slipped out of his hands and squirted out there, and it was on the ground. And luckily, Michigan State wasn't able to recover it. Michigan was able to get some points out of that drive right there. But right then, it's not second-guessing. It's saying it. And every single person that was watching that game, could somebody go up to Harbaugh? And then they just said, where was Gaddis after that saying, hey, look, let's just go with Cade now. To hell with whatever plans you've got, whatever you think you're going to do, or whatever you promised, or whatever you had set. Did they really have it scripted out in the 4th quarter of a rivalry game that, we're just going to, whatever, we're going to play McCarthy, even if he fumbles the ball, even if Kid McNamara's playing the game of his life. You tend to, and I do this myself, go overboard immediately following a loss. And the game's only minutes old here. As soon as the game ended, I turned this microphone on. But to put J.J. McCarthy back in the game, all things considered, the way Cade was playing, where you're at in the game, and that McCarthy, who had just fumbled the ball, has to go down as the stupidest coaching decision that I've ever seen. One of them. Like, I don't know. What's Harbaugh going to say about that? Well, you know what? No, there's no, I don't care. Yeah, I care what he says. But he doesn't get off the hook for that. That is something that And here's the guy, everybody loves him. The captain comeback, played him, and I love him. Played at Michigan. I go down his whole resume. You know that. But you could take 100 people sitting around that have never even touched a football or couldn't identify one and saying, what are they doing? The fundamental things in sports. You got a guy that's rolling, and you got a guy that's not. And what? What are you doing? It would be like in the movies, like in Hoosiers, where you had Jimmy Chitwood, and remember they were drawing it up like, all right, let's fool them. We're going to run the picket fence. Jimmy, you're going to be the decoy. We're going to run Opie around here, and he's going to take the final shot. You know what? You looked over at the bench, and what were they all doing? They were totally deflated. And then Jimmy said, I'll make it. Well, that was Cade Cunningham in this game. You didn't see Mel Tucker taking Kenneth Walker out and putting somebody else in there to run the football when he was rolling, having one of the greatest games I've ever seen. McNamara was on fire. I want to scream, explain it. There's no explanation for it. Ridiculous. So Michigan only has themselves to blame, and it starts with Jim Harbaugh. But it goes to Mike McDonald right after that. And if Josh Gaddis had anything to say, and he does, about the personnel and how they're moving, where was he at? Where was anybody else at? Saying, Jim, come on. Abort. Isn't that what coaching is? Putting your players in the best position you can. And you know what? All the crying, and I'm crying already about the officials. The officials were lame. Yeah, it sucked. Yeah, they blew a bunch of calls and everything looked like it was going Michigan State. So I don't know. They choked. Harbaugh choked. I'm sorry. It's on the coaching here. From what I saw this afternoon out in East Lansing. So that's it. Here I am just looking through this one, and let me take a step back. Let me look just to see here at just moments after the game. Maybe Harbaugh has come up to the podium and answered the question already here. Oh, here he is. Harbaugh asked about the reviews. Made my thoughts known throughout the game. All right, let's see if he had anything to say about the McCarthy move. Here's little Kate McNamara. Let's go see if I can, and I believe I can here. If I pull it up quick enough. I'll put a little Bluetooth action here. Sorry, it's going to take 1 second. I should have had this all set up. It is connected, so if I pull this up here, push this button over here, I want to just tell everybody while I'm getting this ready, thanks to everyone for listening. Coming up on Monday, I'll be expanding this coverage. It's going to be great. And I'll be on TMBR. We'll be getting video going. We'll do it all. And it's probably getting out to the podcast there. Let's see if I can get a little Cade McNamara up here. Here he is. This is off of Angelique Shigelis' Twitter feed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a big game, and we're not just going to just not think about it. I mean, this one stings, as I mentioned, but we have to respond, and that our back is against the wall now, so we got to respond.
All right, I'm sorry for Cade, and they probably bring the players up there before, and Harbaugh's in there right now. Harbaugh getting talked about the first thing, at least on Angelique's feed here 6 minutes ago, asked about the reviews. And, well, Jim, how about the play? How about putting McCarthy back in there? How about that? How about getting outscored 23-3 after taking a 13-14 lead? Yeah, I mean, I get those things. What I don't get is the personnel decisions and the adjustments when it came down to the tempo. They had no answers for it. And those are like really, I don't know, they're not simple things, but they're fundamental things that you have to have as a coaching staff if you want to be coaching in big time games. Like they're going to look at your tendencies and they're going to exploit them, and then you have to adjust. And Michigan did not adjust. And then Harbaugh, One of the simplest things. Again, I underscored a million times here. This is not about the officiating. You got a guy that's cooking out there and playing his heart out and playing the game of his life. And yeah, you got a plan to put the other guy in, but when he fumbles and now you're in a big game and it's coming down to a one score, why in the world would you ever put that particular player right back in the game? And then he fumbled again. Why? Why would you do that? That is beyond explanation. Well, I guess I'm going to just keep repeating that because I don't understand it. There are a lot of other things that were down here, and like I said, the Spartan fumble with the shin down being reversed, that sucked. So 2 calls in the first half. The Walker TD, which I didn't have a problem with until because you say, there's just not enough to overturn. That's close. Looked like it could have been coming out. And you might want to say the same thing about the Ajabo strip. But how can you say it about the Walker touchdown and then, the Ajabo strip? What? So, that part sucks. And in the second half, you come out and, you're able to get a touchdown with Sandra still, even after you fake a punt and it doesn't work for you. But, you're up 30-14 on your second possession that you get in the third quarter. Michigan State responded. They went for a 4th and 4. Laid one out there to Jaden Reed, and then they went for 2. They kept, getting those 2-point conversions. Kenneth Walker, 58 yards. And so that's it. There it is. I'm looking at a moving story here. Sparty brings fire on Twitter. Michigan State didn't waste any time going after Taylor Lewan for his midweek prediction. Yeah, well, if you're going to shoot your mouth off, then, you got to take it. If you're going to talk trash, you got to be able to take it. So there it is. I don't know. Michigan falls to 7-1. They most important. Well, I don't know. It's not most important. Like Michigan State's undefeated. Mel Tucker's 2-0, and it's Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh has a losing record against MSU. Yeah, it affects recruiting. It affects everything. I thought heading into the season that this was a must-win game for Jim Harbaugh. But yeah, you go 7-0, and well, you know what? The young staff, remember, like all of the narratives and ones that they sound good, like you're 7-0. Sure, hey, the young staff, they're bringing so much energy to the team. Mike McDonald, he's 33 years old. I hadn't seen it out on the recruiting trail, because they're like, and Sharon Moore, their offensive line coach, and co-OC, along with Gaddis, he's got a lot of nice titles. He's a great guy to listen to. He's impressive. That's great recruiter. Clink, great recruiter, but we hadn't seen that. But when you're 7-0 and, everything, winning takes care of everything. It's like, oh, the young staff, the energy. Boy, they're really energizing Harbaugh, and he looked good. But now we're sitting here. And you lose to Michigan State. And what do you got? What do I got? Well, I got basketball. That's starting up. November 1st is Monday. I got a scrimmage on the 5th. So you got basketball. When's basketball season start? That's what you have. Because, all right, Michigan's got Indiana, and they got Penn State, and they got Maryland, and they got Ohio State. But all of the good stuff up to this point that Michigan had going for them, the young staff, the energy, the eyes, and the Big Ten East, it was always going to come down to November. And November started early. Another Halloween weekend down the tubes, courtesy of the Spartans. Last year, Michigan was 20-point favorites, and they took Michigan State for granted, and they got punched in the mouth and lost that game at home during the pandemic. You all know the story. Now here we are, Halloween weekend, 2021. And the nightmare continues. And Mel Tucker looks like a great coach and a great recruiter. And, is this staff a great recruiting staff going back to Michigan? I don't know. The proof's going to be in the pudding coming up. They've got a legacy commit in Johnson. That's great. His dad played at Michigan, but it's great to get. If I'm not, holding that against him, great get. They lost one of their 4 stars here. They got, a top 18. They got 18 right now. They're ranked with their 17 commits, 3 4-stars. I mean, that's nothing I'm sitting around saying, oh, man. Like last year, they had, J.J. McCarthy sitting there. You're like, hey. But this thing takes a huge hit. Everything takes a hit. Oh, what are you talking about? Running the table here? Maybe they can beat Indiana. Maybe they can beat Penn State. Probably should beat Maryland. They're going to beat Ohio State? No. You can't say that. Nobody can say it. Nobody. They're certainly not saying it when the paint's not even dry on this performance. And the worst thing about it, I'll just say this. If you listen to this far along, you're listening to me just complain and cry about this game. They had it. They had this game. The things that you're looking for. Looking at my phone. This one's saying I'm sick. We can't have nice things. All kinds of things like that. Yeah. All right. All right. Well, I will. I'm not watching. I'll just watch some baseball tonight. Watch some baseball. Watch the Lions tomorrow. Is that this is what I got to look forward to now? Look forward to. I got basketball to look forward to. Start of that going on. I don't know. I'm going to look one more time to say I want the response from Harbaugh here about what he had to say about putting McCarthy back in. Let's see. Here's Nick Baumgartner on Twitter. Maybe he's live tweeting. No, he's not. Live tweeting the news conference. I'll try Angelique one more time here. One more. Give me 20 more seconds, folks. I mean, like I said, here I am saying it doesn't matter what he says. And now I am. Harbaugh asked about the reviews and made my thought. I hope that I'm sure he was asked. Just nobody. He next question. Andrew Vastardis, a lot of people are going to hop off the bandwagon, but this season isn't over. Yeah, well, that's what you're supposed to say when you're a player. I mean, that's what you got to say. He's a captain. He's a senior. I get all that. But you know what? Another thing those players can't say is they can't throw their coaches under the bus. I mean, they've got games. But you know what? And then I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. Throwing somebody under the bus is like an indication that, they shouldn't be thrown under there. Jim Harbaugh in this game lost this game for Michigan with his coaching decisions, specifically putting J.J. McCarthy back into the game after he had fumbled the series before, and he put him back out there, and he fumbled again. Also, Jim Harbaugh and his young staff that had so much energy, and Mike Macdonald, Mike Macdonald giving them, different looks and different answers for defense. But when Mel Tucker and his staff on the bye week went over and watched Michigan and what their tendencies were and what they struggled with, personnel groupings and changing them in and out, Michigan State was ready for that, and they pounced on it in the first quarter. This wasn't just waiting for something right here. I got the notes sitting right in front of me. First quarter. State throws a pick, false start. Andrell Anthony, here it goes. Blake Corum drops an easy third down pass. People talking about it could have been a touchdown, but Michigan gets an interception, has to settle for a field goal. Andrell Anthony, another catch in there, first down, and here it is. On Michigan State's fourth drive of the game, this was right at the end of the first quarter. Here's my note. Tempo catches Michigan State gets the ball into U of M territory, and they're moving. The next note I make is Michigan State, because they take it into the second quarter. Walker scores on a 27-yard TD, first play of the second quarter. What was going on there? That's on Jim Harbaugh. That's on Mike McDonald. And these things, some of these fundamental things, credit Michigan State. Did a great job. Saw the tendencies, were waiting on that, and exploited it, and Michigan had no answers. But Harbaugh again, and the referees, if you could have got an even shake there, it doesn't always happen that way. We know that. Brown White tripped Desmond Howard, and so saying the number one thing is that the officials cost them the game. That's going to happen. Those guys are human. I don't think they're like maybe the umpires from DeWitt and the back judges from Grand Ledge. Maybe Spartan Bob. Maybe these guys are game. Like, those things sound crazy to say when things are going against you. It happens. It's supposed to even up at some point. If it's not going to be in a game, some other game, it'll even up. But the non-adjustments and not being able to and continue to get, shocked by the tempo. Like, come on. You could be like, these guys are the greatest X and O's guys in the world, but, they can't get their part of being a good coach is having your guys in position. And I'm just repeating what I said. Harbaugh, McDonald, bad jobs. Refs, poor season. It's down the drain, but you know what? They kept it in. They kept your head up almost to November. I'm used to it. Michigan hasn't won the Big Ten. They haven't been to Indy, and they haven't won the conference since 2004. So, I don't think it's like they'll never win it or anything else. One day they will. And, it'll be exciting. And all of the times that they came up short, it'll be that much sweeter when they finally get there. I mean, what else can you say? I'm not throwing you any cliches about you got to come back and get to work and get to practice and let's see what happens. Put a good ball game together, a good game plan together for the Hoosiers. I mean, none of that seems very like anything that I'm listening to. I don't even. So I'm not saying it. I said it, but don't listen to it. And you're not. But you've listened this long. I want to say thank you. That's going to do it. Tomorrow, I'll do another one of these. We'll see. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to have a different tune. Maybe I'll just come right back and start complaining about Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDonald and the referees and the Kenneth Walker explosion. Maybe that's just what I'll do again tomorrow. But I'll be here. 37-33. The final. Kenneth Walker the third. Yeah. No Hutchinson touchdown, no defensive pass interference there at the end, but I'll see if I'll be crying about that tomorrow or not. All right. It's going to do it. Thanks for listening. So long. Good night. And let's put this up here. Good night.